Good old Sesame Street, right? One of the primo children's television programs changed the world. And so can you. They change the world one Muppet at a time. And you can change the world one child at a time. Not to draw that relationship between a Muppet and a child. But good morning to you. It's a beautiful Sunday morning, a little bit chilly. I have on my sweater, right? What's with that? I wanted to just do a 3-minute overview to give you a sense of where we are, and so that we can get on track with this direct lesson and so you feel good about it. Let me say that you've been on track with your work, even though some of you have been a couple days late, no big deal. If you're 2 weeks late, no big deal. I got you, right? So I wanted to start off by just about a conversation that I had yesterday with two absolutely amazing students who both seem to have the same standard. Brittany and Grant, who both have the same standard. And right now I'm talking about, let me nix this off my computer because I'm watching Big Bird do his little thing. So in a conversation yesterday, and I believe I talked to probably 6 of you yesterday, both Brittany and both Grant have the social studies standard with verbs in it of address and inform. So they had called me about those two verbs. And here is the dialogue that I had with them. First of all, just like the rest of you, they are so focused and so amazing, but there's so much going on in life too, which makes it so much of a challenge. Each one of us have stuff going on in our life that challenges us. And I'm hoping on June 12th that we will be dabbing off shelter down, but continuing to wear masks and to be safe and to social distance. So I want to talk about the format section. But before I do, in the context of that, I want to talk to you about the overview. So we are looking at creating 4 lessons: 1 direct, full narrative; 1 direct, bullet point; 1 cooperative group; and 1 project-based. And they all will line up. They'll line up to the standard. What standard? The standard that you choose and have on your format section. So what I want you to do is think long range. And long range means from direct lesson number 1 all the way through project-based, the only project-based lesson that we'll have. So in thinking about, let's say, direct lesson number 1, the direct lesson is teacher-led, student-fed. It's very low level. It's very small amounts of information for the sole purpose of preparing them to do the cooperative group and project-based. So it gives them a foundation. If I said to you, I want you to go out and I want you to purchase a Rapella, and then I want you to utilize the Rapella in your life. Now, some of you might know what that is. Many of you will not. A Rapella is a fishing lure, okay? A Rapella is a fishing lure. So if you don't even know what a Rapella is, then how are you going to engage in higher level thinking? So if I'm thinking about that Rapella, my first direct lesson will be determining an objective from that standard. But my first direct lesson, and even my second, is very minimal. So I'm just preparing them to begin thinking about the verb in the standard. So let's go back to Brittany and Grant's, and some of you may have the same standard that they have selected. 2 of the verbs in the standard is address and inform. Brittany's unit plan is in kindergarten, in the context of children who are just kind of beginning their educational steps. And Grant, I believe, is 3rd grade. So interestingly enough, it's the same standard. You can have this, you have to utilize the standard that's in your grade level. But actually, the verbs in the standard can go across K through 12. It's just the complexity. So in the context, in speaking with Grant, he was thinking about, how do I address and inform? And I said to him that in the first part of the direct lesson and in the second part of the second direct lesson, you're laying that foundation. So think about how addressing and informing will look differently at the first beginning 2 lessons and then the cooperative group and project-based. So in the first lesson, I'm going to first begin discussing what it means to address, and probably that's it. I might just be dealing with that one verb, address. So I might be in my anticipatory set activity, I might be putting up pictures around the room of communities that have a lot of trash all over, communities that have not prioritized taking the trash out. So my students are going to be going around, and they're going to be taking a piece of paper, clipboard, even perhaps pictures, right? And they're going to have to, once they're done, come back and working in groups of 3, they are going to address at least 2 reasons why the communities have trash all over. So my objective might be, from my standard, I'm just going to use the verb address first. After going around the room, looking at pictures of communities that have trash all over, and using paper and a pen, the 3rd grade students will discuss 2 reasons why they think there's trash all over in the communities in groups of 3. That has the CABD in it. That is direct lesson number 1, and it will be followed out throughout the lesson in that first lesson. So when it comes to my input and modeling, one of the vocabulary words will be address, right? In my input and modeling, as you will see, because I've got a forthcoming input and modeling video, but I needed to get this out to you too, is that it talks about the who, what, when, where, and why. Who's putting garbage in the communities? Why are they putting garbage? When do they do it? Where do they do it? So my input and modeling is all around that objective. So now let's fast forward to direct lesson number 2. So my students, my 3rd graders, now have a little bit of an understanding, minimal, about what the verb address means. And it's contextualized and going around looking at these pictures in the anticipatory set activity, right? And contextualized when they're in their groups. So direct lesson number 2, I'm now using the verb inform, just like I'm going to inform my sweet self with coffee. Direct lesson number 2, I'm going to have them look at perhaps a YouTube video about maybe it's a YouTube video that I have found with a group of students who are talking about the ways in which they have dealt with cleaning up the neighborhood. It could be cleaning up a playground. It could be cleaning up the school. So I'm going to show some short little video clips. And as I show the video clips, I'm going to have the students work in groups again. And I'm going to have them discuss 2 ways that these students informed what was going on. So it's one thing to address it, and it's another thing to inform it, right? So who am I going to inform? Why am I going to inform? There's my input and modeling. So I have 2 objectives. One in my direct lesson, number 1, that dealt with addressing, and another verb in my standard that is inform, that talked about how am I going to inform others about this. Okay, so I still have my same standard. My first 2 direct lessons prepares them to understand that verb, or those 2 verbs, right? Because I cannot ask them to do what they're going to do in the project-based lesson if I don't have that foundation. I can't ask you to go out in a fishing boat and use a rapella for a particular kind of fish if you don't even know what a rapella is. So I'm envisioning now, and I was talking with Brittany, in the kindergarten context about how each Muppet might inform, right? Each Muppet informs us about something. Oscar the Grouch informs us that he is not too nice of a person. He gets horribly angry, right? Bert and Ernie inform us that they're buds. They're BFFs. And they have their own distinct differences. Cookie Monster, num 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 num. You are cookies, num 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 num. I was Cookie Monster last night. Let me show you something. Shh. How you doing? So Cookie Monster informs us what his needs are. And then we talk about how are their needs addressed. So here we have Brittany. We're talking with her about the Muppets, how they address and inform things. Because, oh my gosh, Sesame Street addresses and informs things every way. The news channels are informing us about the absolutely horrific, unspeakable death of George Floyd. May peace somehow come to his family. Ugh. But they're addressing and informing too, right? Those are two life skills. So let's go back to Grant's lesson, or Grant's in my conversation with Grant. So now he is in the cooperative group with his lesson. So I was telling him, you could put the students in groups and they themselves could select their own issue that they are going to address and inform, along with the rubric that you would give them, right? And that way they're taking addressing and informing, and they're taking it to a higher level because now they can apply it. And then in the project-based, individually they will work in their just themselves, and perhaps they're going to each have a global issue that they will have to address and inform, and use technology to do it. So you can see the progression of how a standard with one or two verbs, and you don't have to have two verbs, you could just choose one, and that verb could go across all 4 lessons. So you can see how that, we're moving from something very simple to something complex. So as you're thinking about the selection of your verb, and you're thinking about how that's going to play out, keep this in mind. The second thing I want to speak with you about is I'm going to be offering Zoom every evening at 7:30. So if any of you want to come on and discuss anything about the direct lesson, I'm going to actually be sending out a schedule. Like tonight, 7:30, I'll probably be speaking about the format section again and the anticipatory set, objective, and purpose. I'm not exactly sure. I've got to write the schedule out. So, but tonight, know that it's about the format section, thinking through those things that I was just talking with you about Brittany and Grant's lesson, that those two verbs, how they play out, because that's critical. And then talk with you through those other steps. I'm making myself available because I know that that's something that I need to do for you. And I know you have done so much for me. You have been so assistive. And I would say in every contact that you've made with me, if there's something that you feel is an instrument that I can use, that I'm on it. I totally am on it. Because there are issues always in teacher clarity. And when you're online, there's even more clarity issues. So that is the next thing. So the third thing is that when you turn in things, sometimes for some reason you can't post things. So I have you putting things on Canvas. I have you sending email, text message, and some of you send Google Docs. So there's 4 venues that you can send me things. Certainly I prefer Canvas. But because of that, I have data coming in all the time, which is cool. Because of that, though, I can somehow overlook one of your pieces of work. And I had 2 of you send me something yesterday that I had overlooked. So if an entire day goes by and I have not evaluated what you've sent me, send me a text. Put a happy face on there or an angry face, right? So I will be having a Zoom tonight at 7:30. In the meantime, I will continue to send you things. The next thing that I'm going to send you is the tutorial video for input and modeling. So I hope this has helped. Wow, I went over my 3 minutes. I will hopefully see you tonight. Again, it's optional. Bye for now.